let's talk about this. This is a big issue here. Property taxes in Ohio, obviously a major topic right now as several municipalities look to reform. So here joining us this morning, we are talking to Mike Gustin with Cincinnati Public Schools. Mike, during the commercial break, I was kind of asking you, break this down for me, just like a normal human like myself, right? Break it down for us in terms of what property taxes mean when it comes to the ability to fund CPS and the like.
Cool. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah.
Appreciate being here today. For someone like me as a treasurer of the district, I work in this stuff every day, but I understand most people don't.
Right.
And so, today we are 2 weeks out from an election. Multiple folks have ballot initiatives out there. CPS itself, we have a renewal levy.
Sure.
That's coming up, but other school districts also have levies. There's also a local tax initiative. And so that's while that's going on, at the same time, there are efforts in Columbus to also change how property taxes work altogether.
Okay. And that would be what, eliminating them?
So that is one option. There's a group that's going around now gathering signatures to put on the ballot next November a ballot initiative to eliminate property taxes across the entire state.
And basically what you're like, you kind of want to be able to get out ahead of that, right? Because considering the federal funding cuts that you guys have already seen, I know we've had the superintendent on, she's been able to talk to that about the federal funding and how those cuts have truly impacted CPS's bottom line here. In terms of property taxes, is that something that kind of for the viability of CPS has to stick around? I would imagine that's pretty imperative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Property taxes are, when all is said and done, about 70% of our revenue.
Wow.
So we absolutely rely on those. And so any reduction in that is something that we have to worry about, something that could be catastrophic.
Absolutely. What should people know when they're, going to the polls? Obviously, it's so important to kind of try to educate yourself as much as possible before going out to the polls. But what should they know? What knowledge should they kind of be, strapped with when they go out to the polls in terms of property taxes and the impact?
Yeah, I think it's important to read. The ballots, to understand. We put a lot of information out there. Even on our CPS website, we have an informational page about our renewal.
Okay.
But you'll find those for most places, most cities, most other folks have those. So it's important to be warned about that.
Right.
The second part of this is after the election, you're going to see, a lot of stuff going on in Columbus, where there are different bills working through the General Assembly. That are what broadly labeled property tax reform. Okay. And it's important for people to pay attention to what that's doing.
Right.
We want to make sure, obviously, no one wants to pay more taxes.
Right.
But we want to make sure the system that we end up with, still provides for the basic needs of Ohioans. Still gives us the community that we want. Right.
Absolutely. I think that was perfectly said. And I think it's, again, important, too, the fact that property taxes, especially right now, are more crucial than ever, as you spoke to the 70% of that. So you said more information can be found on Cincinnati Public Schools website?
Yes.
For the levies and the ballots and all of the language along with those.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah, the other thing I'll put a plug out there is I am doing a series of financial town halls.
Okay.
So it's kind of a podcast format.
Okay.
It's fun. But we are going through the entire property tax universe. So we're talking about how schools are funded in Ohio.
Gotcha.
How property taxes work, how the state aid is.
Yeah.
And so those are monthly. I think the next one's coming up November 5th, the day after the election.
Perfect.
And those are available also on our website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike Gustin, again with Cincinnati Public Schools. We appreciate you taking the time here with us this morning. It's 9:17. Let's send things over to meteorologist Catherine Bodek with a look at that forecast.